Awesome. Hey, Len, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Well, I wanted to get started. Ballerina is so kick-ass and awesome, and I'm a huge fan of your previous films as well, of The Underworld, Total Recall. So I want to get started with you're stepping into this franchise that's well known for its like world-class sort of action. What was your approach to Ballerina that wanted you to separate it from the previous John Wick films as well as your own previous films?
There's a difference in terms of what the action is. It's much more of a fight-based action movie than say something like Die Hard or other projects. But it was also something that I just have a passion for that I've been wanting to do. Um, and in terms of I guess what is different, there's a lot that's different, but the just starting with what you're saying in terms of like the action of it. It was really important to me that one, this was not a female John Wick movie, and that Anna's character Eve was her own fully fleshed out character with her own style, her own energy. And one of the things that worked into the action side of that is that her action, I developed that it's much more survival based than it is like attack based. And what that means is that you get a sense that she's going up against these 6 foot male assassins, sometimes 15, 20 at a time. Um, and we also want to play the realism of that. And the realism of that is being very clever, very creative, and what she needs to do to sort of manipulate the action sequence a little bit just so she can survive it rather than just win it. She's just trying to survive through it. Um, and that became an energy that is very different. And so she has to be clever. She has to, everything in the room, she has to think of, is there a possibility of this being a weapon? And, um, and it really created a language of her type of fighting style.
Yeah, absolutely. And because she is a lot smaller than the larger villains that she has to fight in the movie. What was it like your conversation with Anna, where this is her first like really big action movie? What were your conversations like before she started getting a hang of what she was doing here?
We've talked about many things. One thing, just in a sense of being open about when you say that she's going up against a lot of what are, primarily these very skilled and male assassins, which are just bigger than her, is that she's going to get her ass kicked. Like it's just going to happen. It's going to be, and but it'll be like I said, she'll have to be clever of how to work through that. And I just really, I grew up on films where the vulnerability of the action star, of the Harrison Fords and, Martin Riggs and Lethal Weapon, and they just get thrashed. And you like the reality of how much kind of pain that they're in. Um, and there's not a lot of like posing and kind of even confidence of here's I'm going to do a really badass sequence. After doing this amazing sequence, it's really just showing how tired they are, how much they're just impressed and shocked that they're even still alive. And I think that, at least for me, speaking for me, as an audience member, I just attach to those kind of characters more.
Yeah, it's very easy to root for her throughout the movie. And you have this really amazing sequence that we hadn't seen in the movie, in any of the John Wicks, the flamethrower sequence for the third act. What sort of went behind conceptualizing that, and what were sort of the steps that you took to get that film? Because it's not just like a 5 minute sequence; it's like a 20-minute extended sequence that you're filming. So, what was that? Can you break down sort of that sequence?
I mean, that all came from one of having, there was early on, we had like, this is like fire and ice and just coming from an emotional point of the fire showing her rage. So emotionally, it just, the visuals of that was, was kind of one of the starting points. And then, with a lot of action, it's, I'm always striving for what hasn't been seen. And that's even if it's a weapon that we've seen in other films. How do we utilize it in a way that it's just never been done before? So that became when the idea of a flamethrower, but a flamethrower against another flamethrower and just having essentially a gun battle, but with flamethrowers has never been seen before. Um, so that starts like so it all kind of it builds on that, and then we sit with the go over it with the stunt team and build together a good file of 30 different moves that would be interesting. And then it's really picking what are the best of. And that's really how it works. It's we know, okay, here's the clever idea is a flamethrower against flamethrower, essentially a dual gunfight. And let's just start developing what are some of the funnest, most brutal moves, and then we'll go down and pick the best of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have the factor where you get to work with Keanu and bring him in back into this, but he's obviously not the main focus this time. What were the collaboration with Keanu? Because I'm sure he has his own viewpoint of how the John Wick franchise is supposed to look, how it's supposed to feel. What was it like working with him and bringing him back? Because I believe he's worked with Anna a few times as well.
Yeah, it was, I gotta say, man, it was a wonderful process. I loved working with the guy. And it was Keanu was not a part of the original script that I had gotten. And I wanted him to be a part of it, but wanted him to be a part of it in a way that wasn't a cameo. It didn't seem like a cash grab. It didn't seem like, okay, he's gonna show up and do a kind of stamp cameo. It was exactly what I didn't want. And so I worked on the script a bit to incorporate more of it. Honestly, it wasn't the timeline wasn't the same. The very, very original script. And that Keanu and I worked on together and got to where the timeline is of how it runs parallel with Parabellum. And so he was very involved. He was very involved in also wanting to be very true to what his journey was in that, in the film so far. Um, and so once we together locked in the timeline and then um, what what purpose he would serve in on a story. And for me, Keanu is he's really there for the full circle of her story about choice and consequence. When he sees her in the opening, and then what you'll find um, later down the road that it felt really good. I was really happy that it was that was it. I just wanted it to be that with all its fun and seeing John Wick as a fan, absolutely I want to see that. But as a storyteller, I wanted to really have its weight and have a purpose.
Yeah, and so they have that duel near the end. What were the conversations like there to end it like you did end it, where it was sort of a stalemate almost? Because like I don't I mean there's a lot of John Wick fans. There's gonna be a lot of Ballerina fans now as well, or Eve fans. What were the conversations like to where it's like there's not a definitive winner, but it lets anyone it's kind of open for interpretation
Yeah.
who the
And
audience would like.
we're spoiler free with this interview, right?
I mean it'll be coming out after the movie comes out, so you can talk spoilers, it's fine.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, really, the one of the first conversations in um, Keanu said, "Well, here's the thing: if John Wick goes up against Eve, if he's sent to kill Eve, he's gonna kill Eve, you know." And it was just a fun car. I said, I absolutely agree with that. Does he want to kill Eve? Is the big question. Does he feel that and so it's really, I got into his head about um, the difference between Wick and John in his mind. And so that really plays a part in terms of what he's gone through, what he sees in her story, what he understands. Um, and, he's given a directive, he's given this kind of, these rules and it's kind of forced out of many things in his life and favors and situations. He is forced to go in and deal with the problem. But like we've seen from John Wick, he, finds his way to, to get around some of the shackles and things. And and for the fight itself, I really wanted to make it more of a mentor trying to really get through to his student in a way, like a lion and a cub of the cub that's just sort of won't let go. And so the fight for me was I need to um, I need to kind of beat her down into a place where hopefully she will listen to my advice. Is sort of the tone of the fight.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a really cool scene. And I don't want to keep you too long, but I did want to ask, since the setting, you have this it's a globe-trotting adventure. There's the scenes in Prague, and then I think it's Austria at the end of the movie.
Mhm.
Um, what was sort of the most technically difficult aspect for you to get? Because there's so much choreography involved in that sequence when she's going up and down and like using grenades to get escape people. Because it just feels like you're leveling up in a video game, or was it something else that proved to be a little more challenging to pull off?
I mean that honestly, all the sequences were challenging. It's a the sequences are, and I think meant to be challenging. It's funny because I'm asked a lot, what were the most challenging scenes to shoot? They're all challenging, and I think if they weren't, they just wouldn't be very good. If I say, well, the scene that was really easy was this scene. Like, well, it's probably not going to be that exciting then if it's easy. They were all challenging. The one that was, um, I'd say specifically more, um, I guess, detail specific oriented was the grenade sequence because we do have live pyrotechnics going off. It's all a practical sequence, and the shots are longer and not stitched together. So, a lot of trap doors for stunt players to be able to just escape out through one hatch right before the grenade goes off, so that when we reveal like if one like the door, she smashes the guy up against the door. He has a half a second to get through that trap in the set before that charge goes off, so that when she pulls the door back around, he's now gone and the other door. So a lot of that just in the timing was tricky, but also really fun. Hallstatt itself, it was a tricky location. Couldn't bring a lot of equipment there. We couldn't bring lighting, trucks and everything there. So we just carpet bombed that place with cameras for 2 days and shot until the light went down. It felt like a student film with just a bit more money and support, but we didn't have a lot of equipment.
Yeah, well, I mean, it came out beautifully, but thank you so much for your time, Len. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Oh yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you,
All
Marie.
right.